Welcome to today's webinar. My name is Sarah Little. I'm Senior Manager of Business Development at ASTA, and I will be serving as the organizer for today's event. We are happy to welcome today's presenter, Robert Potts, Marketing Director of the Southern Region of the U.S. for the Israel Ministry of Tourism. Before we get started, I'd like to point out a few important features on your screen that will allow you to interact with us via the web. We will be answering your questions at the end of the presentation. To ask a question, you will use your GoToWebinar control panel. Near the bottom of this panel is an area that says Questions. If you click on the arrow next to where it says Questions, it will open up a window pane. This is what you will use to communicate with us. If you are having trouble hearing the presentation, please make sure that your speakers are turned on. If you called in, try hanging up and dialing back in again. You can send me any technical issue via the Questions pane, and I will try to answer them. I will respond to you via that same pane. Please note that all audience members are muted. We certainly want to hear from you, but we have so many people on the call that the background noise would be prohibitive, and we want to ensure that everyone can hear the entire presentation. Finally, please note that this webinar is being recorded and will be available for on-demand viewing at asta.org by early next week. Now, let's get started. It is my pleasure to introduce Robert Potts.
Good afternoon, everyone. Sarah, thank you for the introduction. First, I'd like to say welcome to Israel. The Israel Ministry of Tourism is happy to be with you today and to give you some insight into a sector of our work, the Christian market. As Sarah said, my name is Robert Potts. I'm the Marketing Director for the Israel Ministry of Tourism's Southern Region. Our office is based in Atlanta, Georgia. I handle the Christian market for the Southern United States. My area consists of everything south of Virginia, west to Oklahoma, including Texas, and of course, Florida. Now, just to give you a quick look at our regional offices, this map does not show specifically each region by cutout, but our 5 offices in the Northeast, the Southern Region, Western Region, and Midwest, so New York, Atlanta, Los Angeles, and Chicago, canvass the United States, and then we have a office for Canada and Toronto, and we're happy to be with you and work with you at any given time. Now, to dig into today's subject, the faith-based market and why it matters to Israel and to tourism for Israel. Some of you joining us today may have had some business in the past with the faith market. If you have, I hope today is a refresher for you on how to target those clients for repeat business, but also to gain new ones. For those who have not done Israel travel yet, and especially with the faith market, I do hope today is enlightening and educational for you. To start, the majority of travelers to Israel are for religious purposes, as you'll see on the screen. As you all know, the world's 3 major faiths collide in Israel, and especially Jerusalem: Judaism, Christianity, and Islam. As you'll see on the slide, the majority of Americans do identify with a religious affiliation, mostly Christian. That is obviously not to say that all are weekly attending church or mass, but their roots identify religiously. Further, Israel has always had a strong relationship with the United States, which increases the individual and group desire to visit the Holy Land. The statistic you see on there, 73% of Americans identify as Christians. That comes from the Barna Group. You can go on their website and see those statistics yourself. It's a group that has done research like this for many years, and groups like ours go to them for statistics constantly to make sure that our work is being done appropriately, that we're targeting people correctly, and they're there to help you as well. Now, although the majority of Americans would identify religiously, there is still work to be done on our part. To anyone who might think that the Christian market is saturated, I point you to the bottom bullet point of 2016 travelers. Israel is setting records in the last 3 years, but there is work to be done. We've hit records every year of how many travelers we have to Israel. Each year it grows and grows, but there's still plenty of work to be done. Many of Americans might say Israel is a trip of a lifetime, but they haven't been presented with the right opportunity to make that first pilgrimage. This is where you and I come in. The market isn't fully developed. By the way, before I forget, that 2016 statistic, just to make sure you noticed it, 2.9 million travelers to Israel last year in 2016. 648,000 of those were from the United States. So as you can tell, there's a lot of work to be done. Now, how to understand the Christian market and how to target them correctly. To grow the Christian market as a client base and to help your clients plan more trips to Israel, you have to understand their church background. This says so much about how to recruit them and what will interest your travelers in Israel. Let's go ahead and state the obvious. There are 2 main branches of the Christian church in America. There's the Roman Catholic Church and the Protestant denominations. Both have different views on Israel travel and how they want to experience the Holy Land. But more importantly, there are different ways to recruit and target leaders for trips from each branch of the church. The Catholic Church, on most occasions, will direct all travel through their local diocese. We often try to meet and recruit the local father in the local church, but are usually directed to the diocese for the area as they have an individual on staff who handles travel for all churches in that area. On a rare occasion, you will find a father who is in the hierarchy of the church and is willing to take on a trip for his church directly, usually because his church is large enough to handle everything that goes with making a trip like this happen. Now, with the Protestant churches, there are obviously many more denominations. And as many of you know, the anniversary of the Reformation is coming up this year, and that will be a celebration with Israel as well, because a lot of denominations will come to Israel to celebrate that. With the Protestant churches, mainline and evangelical both operate differently. Most mainline Protestant churches also work heavily throughout the church hierarchy, not the local church. In many ways, because budgets are set for the local church by the association or the diocese for the area, similar to the Catholic Church. The difference is how they experience Israel. I'll get to all of that later. Protestant evangelical churches are best recruited locally. The pastor in charge of each church is usually the decision maker on trips and budget as well. Now, if I can direct you to the screen for just a second, you'll see on the right side mainline Protestant and Protestant evangelical churches. This is not a complete list of all the different denominations in America. These are some of the more well-known, and you can see how they're split up. And depending on the region of the country you're in, the local church may vary as to how they are, more evangelical or more mainline. But this is a decent synopsis. One common denominator, though, with the Protestant churches, mainline and evangelical, they experience Israel differently, as I said, and the pastor in charge of each church is usually the one making the decision on the trips and the budget as well. The common denominator among all the churches. Large churches have the ability to plan a trip to Israel on their own. Smaller churches will often desire to team with other local churches with which they have coordinated on previous projects. This is an understood practice and a great option for when you have a leader, a pastor, or a priest who would like to schedule a trip to Israel, but they know their own church cannot make this happen alone. This is where we suggest teaming with other churches. And this is within your business where we suggest making that suggestion to a smaller pastor, a smaller church, because of the fact that it is your business, and when you're trying to recruit these people, they may not have as many people from their church who can go on this trip. And when you have a smaller group, the cost of many different things gets spread out, but the cost rises for the individual if it's a smaller group. So the larger group you have going to Israel, the better the price gets for each one, but it also allows you to make a better profit on each of those as you're looking at your profit on the end of the trip. So we do suggest looking to team with smaller churches in a local area that can do one big trip together. Now, what is important to each Christian denomination? After we've gotten past the different denominations, understanding how they experience Israel and what they're looking for. When visiting Israel, people of different Christian backgrounds experience the Holy Land in different ways. As a tourist destination, there are many attractions and historic sites, but not all are required for each traveler. And when I say the term attraction, I use that very lightly. Israel is a place of deep faith. I, as a Christian, have a deep understanding of Israel, and I don't consider anything to be an attraction, so to speak. But speaking as a tourist to a tourism location, we know that it's an attraction to the country that will pull them there. With the Catholic Church, there is nearly 2,000 years of history in Israel, but most of the church's history began in the 4th century with churches that are built over and on historic spots in Israel. The Catholic Church wanted to do their best to mark the spots of Jesus' ministry so that parishioners can experience his life from the exact location according to history. These churches and shrines provide wonderful venues throughout Israel for daily reflection, as well as group bonding. For most Protestant denominations, knowing the exact location of a miracle of Jesus or a story in the Bible isn't as necessary as being in the area and gaining their own perspective on Scripture. Though anyone would love to know the exact spot of any story, it is the mission and purpose of the story that resonates strongest with travelers from Protestant churches. There is also a strong desire to visit locations that have roots purely in the Old Testament because they fulfill prophecy in the eyes of Christians, and this further deepens their faith to know how old and how new Old Israel and New Israel connect today. And you'll see on the screen with the Catholic Church and the Protestant denominations differences in what they look for in trips. You'll see the history of the church, you see historic shrines, see the Via Dolorosa and the passion, the suffering of the Christ. Daily Mass and communion with fellow church members in the Holy Land at each of these different venues along the way is crucial to them. With the Protestant denominations, we hear this often: we want to walk where Jesus walked. We want to gain a perspective on the scriptures that they have read in church. They want to know how the scriptures apply to modern day life. They want to take the Bible and turn it from black and white to full color and watch scripture come alive. Also, renewing their faith in the way Jesus did by being baptized in the Jordan River, and exploring the roots of the Old Testament and their importance to the Bible and to our current faith, as mentioned previously. Now, once you have spoken with the denomination or the denominational leader, once you have an understanding of what they're looking for in a trip, once you have them hooked, what are the next steps? Well, obviously, setting a date for the tour. Once they're committed to doing this, they want to go to Israel. Set a date for that tour. For first-time travelers, the best time to visit Israel is on the shoulders, which is between November and March. It offers the best weather and prices because this is the low season for Israel travel. Most Americans take vacation in the summer. Therefore, any place in the world will have increased attendance during those months. Also, Jewish high holidays start in March to April, depending on the start of Passover, and have various holidays scattered throughout the next 6 months of the year, Jewish holidays, culminating with the high holidays, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur, and Sukkot. Those are usually in September and October. Though anyone that wants to experience Israel at its finest and most culturally appealing should do so during these high holidays, the country is much busier, and affordable travel options decrease quickly around these times due to the number of people going, and as you know, due to the cost of flights and hotels. For the frequent Israel traveler, this is understood and is not an issue. For the first-time traveler, though, this could be overwhelming. Therefore, we suggest a trip between November and March for those going for the first time due to the reasons we've stated. Now, creating an itinerary that matches the desires of the church. In creating the itinerary, make sure to speak with church leadership and take into consideration their requests. Most, if not all, tour operators that will handle the final itinerary can customize the tour for any church leader. It's what they want to do. But also know that for those travelers looking to visit on their own, operators also have many guaranteed departures like they would with any other vacation, with itineraries that are set in place that are validated through years of experience. They may not be customized to what the individual traveler may be looking for at that point in time, but they know what most individuals going to Israel want to see, and they're going to be on that trip, and they will be scheduled appropriately so that you have enough time at each spot around Israel to experience it and take it in. We do ask you to be creative with your marketing plan once you have successfully hooked a leader and they want to plan a trip and they're working on setting the date. Be creative with the marketing plan and ask that the group leader think outside the box for recruiting on the trip. Israel is a fantastic destination, but for some, it isn't seen as their first choice due to safety. We understand this. It's something that we deal with every day. We'll always be here to dispel the rumors. It's a question that will come up more often than any other. We have the resources and we have the materials and we have the information to show everybody that this country is honestly one of the safest on earth. You won't have an issue when you're going to Israel. They're ready for anything, and they want the traveler there to experience Israel in a positive way and to come back and tell their family and their friends how incredible it was and to become a repeat visitor. That's what they want at all times. Now, of course, the final step in this is follow-through. Follow-through is critical. Setting realistic dates for the trip and also for payment schedule is critical. Be aware of the news, and if something happens that provokes questions among those on the trip in advance, reach out to us for help. It's our job. It's why we're here. We want everyone to experience Israel in the best way possible. Now, with that, there's a few other things I want to go through very quickly. Just a few slides just to show you some pieces that I may not have covered, and then I will open it up for questions. Just want you to understand that when you're going to Israel, it's not just a religious place. There's many things happening there, but you can be inspired in many different ways. There are many luxury hotels when you go to Israel. There are many different experiences. Most want to stay in a normal hotel like they would here when they travel anywhere. There are many different ways to experience Israel, but know that there are plenty of luxury hotels, fantastic hotels with great reputations, and they're used constantly, and they know how to handle visitors from around the world. The people who make the magic happen, as we call it, the tour operators, people whose trips you will likely be selling. Know that they're here to help, and we want to help you connect with them and find the tour that is best for the person that you're talking with. Many tour operators who are selling Israel, and they've done this for years, and they know what each person going is looking for. So if you have someone who works best with Protestant denominations, connect with them and know what they sell. You have people who focus purely on Catholic travel. Know them, know what they sell, and know how to focus on that with the leader that you're talking to. And understand that there's plenty of options out there. And if you're ever wondering who you should connect someone with, you have a question that comes up from a leader that you're talking to about doing a trip, call us. We're here to help. We want to be able to get the information to you so that you can get that trip booked. Israel Ministry of Tourism is always here to help. We have many different websites. Our newest one is Israel.travel, the top left. It is what you would say secular, so to speak. It doesn't have any religious affiliation, but many operators are advertising their trips on that website now. It's a fantastic website that we just recently debuted, and there's a lot of options on there for you to check out and know what the different operators are selling so that you know what works best for you and your business as well. The top right-hand corner is Holy Land Pilgrimage. That is for Catholic travelers. I believe that website might be updated soon, so keep looking out for it for more information, but that's a more Catholic-focused. The bottom left is Land of the Bible. That is our evangelical and Protestant denominations-focused website. And then, of course, our Israel Photo Gallery. Please check it out, take pictures from there, and show them to the leaders that you're speaking with. Let them see what Israel really looks like, that it's not just a desert and a wasteland. It is an oasis in many ways. The food, the culture, the people, they won't find an experience like Israel anywhere in the world. Obviously, how we're spreading the good news, you can find us on Facebook, on Instagram, and on YouTube. Find our videos and share them. Look at our pictures. Look at our posts on Facebook, and make sure that you're finding the information you need from us. With that, I want to say thank you for joining this webinar today. I know there's people that will have questions, so we want to open it up for that. But know that we're here to help. We love what we do. It is a dream of mine having this job, selling Israel to Christians around the country. To know that I get to talk about a subject that is so near and dear to my heart. It makes me get up and come to work every day with a positive attitude. We love what we do. We want to help you out. So Sarah, I know that you're on the line at this point. If we want to open up some questions, would love to try to answer whatever I can. And if I cannot answer it, then I may not have provided my email already. I'll provide contact information for everyone. You can call us, email us to get anything you didn't get on the webinar.
Great. Thank you so much, Robert. So as I mentioned in the beginning of the presentation, all of the attendees can go ahead and type their questions in that questions pane on the GoToWebinar control panel. So I'll just jump right in, Robert. The first question is there a destination specialist course for Israel?
A destination specialist course for Israel. Yes, we have many resources like that through the Ministry of Tourism, and we can get more information on that. I'm not the direct person to speak with on that specifically, but I can get that information for whoever's asking, and we can get that from our office in New York or our office in Israel so that they have the right place to go to. Okay,
great. And do you have information, I think you covered on some of the websites you have, but just again, do you have information about the tour guides on your website as well? Any preferred tour guides that you guys work with?
Questions about tour guides. You won't find every tour guide listed on the website, of course, because there's many, but you will find how the tour guides work. Every tour guide in Israel is certified through the Israel Ministry of Tourism. They have to be. It's basically a college degree that they go through in their full-time job, and they have incredible information. The tour guides truly are, at the end of the day, what will make or break the trip for most people. Hotels and flights do matter, where they're staying, and the food, it helps, but the 10 hours a day or more that you're out touring the country, tour guide and the information they provide makes or breaks the trip most days. And we understand that, and they have a high-quality education course that they go through to be certified, to know everything that they need to know. And we're constantly putting out new information that these tour guides are watching for and listening for and reading up to understand what's being found in Israel to incorporate those into the next tour that they do. So that we have fantastic tour guides, and know that you will always be in good hands with someone there.
Okay. And are there itineraries that you have on your site as well? A selection of those, or?
Yes, you can find itineraries on our website. I would suggest looking at those, but also going to the different operator sites and looking at their itineraries as well. What you'll find most times with the itineraries on our website are the locations that you should most incorporate into your trip. It won't be in the day-to-day format, but the locations that you should incorporate into your first-time travel. And then from there, once you have an idea of what you're looking for, you can go to the different operators' websites and look at each of theirs and make sure that, say, this operator A, has this spot, but operator B does not. But operator B has something that operator A does not. Operator C likely has both. And most times, all three will have all locations. If it's what we call an off-the-beaten-path location, that's more of a customizable type situation where you could call the operator and say, hey, we have a client who wants to do all this, but they want to do some of these locations as well. Can you help to customize this? And that's where the operator comes in to do something outside the box for you.
Great. Could you, I've just had a few requests to hop back over to the website slide that you had up a moment ago. If you want to just hop back to that while I continue to field the questions.
Yeah, if you see the background, just a second here. There we go.
Great. And then cost-wise, how would the cost to a trip to Israel compare to, say, a trip to Europe?
Okay. Obviously, there's a lot of different locations in Europe, and the way travel is happening these days is different. If you were to do just a basic across-the-board cost that includes flights to and from Israel, your hotel stay for 6 to 7 nights, because most trips are 8 to 9 days. They include 2 days of travel and 6 days on the ground. And there's options for extensions in other countries if you'd like as well. It includes, most tours are going to include breakfast and dinner each day. What's on the traveler is their lunch, because you're not always in the same location, and your souvenirs. Across the board, you're going to find most tours in the range of $3,500, and that's for usually a 4-star hotel range from November to March. In the summer, it can get higher, obviously, because hotels and airline prices will get higher. If you're looking for a 5-star across the board, everything, you're looking at $4,000 and up. But again, when you consider everything that's included in that price is pretty consistent, and it compares very well with most other countries.
Yeah, great. And I know you touched on safety a little bit, but I have the question, what are some bullet points for encouraging travelers that Israel is safe? And I guess my follow-up question would be, are there resources online, things like that, regarding safety in the country?
Right. There are resources online that you can find. Israel is always putting out safety ballots talking about what's going on in the country. I would say this. I'll give a little bit of perspective, and I hope to not provide too much detail here. Israel is the size of New Jersey. And so there's a lot happening in a small country with about 10 million residents. Something that I heard the other day that resonated with me, and I had not heard this in the 2 years in my job. Israel has more reporters in its entire country than the entire nation of China. I'm sure that's going to hit home to some people thinking, holy cow, how in the world is that possible? It's one of the hottest countries in the world, and when I say hottest, I don't necessarily mean weather, but just for news. And they have to have something to write about. And we know that, what sells isn't always the fluff pieces, but things that are causing controversy and safety issues. And yes, there are things happening around Israel that don't look good on the news. But Israel is likely the safest country that you could ever visit outside of, say, your hometown. And sometimes Israel's safer than even your hometown. There are statistics that you can look up online. We're not just talking about perception. Most individuals would say when they go to Jerusalem for the first time, it's 10 o'clock at night and they want to go for a walk downtown Jerusalem. They're perfectly fine to do so, perfectly safe to do so. They don't have issues. Tourists are never a target. They really aren't. And so you're not going to have an issue with that. You don't really know until you go what it's like. You're maybe thinking about safety on the way. Once you're there, it's not what's on your mind. You're experiencing a fantastic country that has so much to offer. And in the event that something does happen in Israel while your client is there, 2 things. One, the IDF and the police forces there are very quick to react with everything. They handle situations very quickly, very appropriately, and it's removed from the streets without any issues so people can go on about their business. Also, if a client is on a trip and they're in a certain part of the country and going to another part of the country for the next day, the tour guides and the tour buses, they're always aware of what's happening. And if something happens in a part of the country that they're going to next, they can divert to a different part of the country for a different day and switch the itinerary around so that if there is an issue, nobody has to experience it and deal with it. They know how to get tourists around safely, get them home safely. They want you to experience Israel in the best way possible and to return and to not have a bad experience. But there are plenty of resources on our website. State Department's always also issuing advisories, and the advisories may sound bad at first, but if you read to the bottom of the advisory, it always says that Israel, Jerusalem, Tel Aviv are no more dangerous than any major city that you would go to in any other country. It just gets a lot more attention because it's Israel.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Are there specific visa requirements for Israel?
Actually, no. From the U.S., if you are an American citizen, you do not need a visa to go to Israel. All you need is your passport, obviously valid within 6 months of the day that you are leaving. Make sure to understand that, because border security in Israel is very tight. They're very serious about their job. If your passport is valid within 6 months of the day that you're leaving Israel, you are fine. If it's not valid within 6 months of the time you're in Israel, you need to have it updated. But all you need is a passport to go. If you're from a different country other than the United States, there are other countries that will require visas. South America, other countries in Europe, places like that. There are different requirements from each country based on what's going on with the politics in that nation at the time. But the U.S. does not require a visa to get to Israel. And another point of contention: most individuals, if they're traveling to Israel, they're probably going to want to travel to other countries around the world at some point too. And we're aware that there's those who may not be as fond of Israel as the U.S. is. Israel does not stamp passports. They put a sticker in your passport once you've been cleared. The sticker is removable. So if that's ever a concern for somebody who's worried about going to Israel and then going somewhere else afterwards, they don't stamp the passport. They put a sticker in it that can be removed so that it does not create an issue for that traveler down the road.
Great. Okay. Thank you. Do you have any tips on getting best group airfare?
That would be out of my wheelhouse. I won't try to offer anything there. That's out of my wheelhouse. I would work with your operator there and work with your airline connections. We do have individuals in our office who deal with the airlines on a more regular basis. So if that person would like to send me that question, I'd be happy to direct it to the person that has a better answer. But it's not my wheelhouse, and I apologize for that.
No worries. Just figured we'd check.
Of course.
Let's see. I think we might be coming to the end. What is next question? What is small group transportation vehicles like? So, for example, is there an ideal size group to go? I know you mentioned, the larger the group, the better for the agent. But what would that look like getting around in Israel with a large group? Are there large buses, things like that, or?
Yes. So your classic Greyhound-sized bus is going to be for the large group. If you are 30 or more on a group, then you're likely going to be on a regular tour bus that can hold up to 50 people, but we don't recommend that. 40 to 45 is usually the max you want to put on a trip, just so that everybody has room to relax on the bus, because you will spend some time on the bus traveling between places, and you don't want to be uncomfortable. So 40 to 45 is the max you normally want to have on a large bus. 30 and up will be on a large bus. Less than 30, they have smaller buses that hold up to 20 to 25 people that are just as roomy, and they're great transportation modes for smaller groups. If you are a group of, say, less than 10, there are even smaller buses that can hold less than 10. If you have a group of 6 to 8, when I was there in December, I was with a group of 6 to 8 people. We were on a very small bus, and it was very comfortable for all of us. So there are different modes of transportation for everyone. And if you're the person who wants to go individually, you can get around by taxi. You can also rent a car. All options are available. They're ready for any size group of any kind. And so let's say if you want to have a group that's going, they have 40 people, but they don't want to all be on one bus. You can work with the operator to see about requesting 2 what we'll call mini buses, those that can handle up to 20 people at a time, and have both of those going at the same time. You can talk to the operator about that. Just be ready to discuss cost, if it's going to be any additional, to allow more room for those that are traveling.
Okay, great. Thank you. Okay, I think that's going to about do it for the questions on the call today. As I mentioned, this webinar was being recorded, so if you would like to listen to the presentation again, it is available to ASTA members on asta.org. It should be up by sometime next week. Thank you to Robert
Sarah?
And our partner. Yes.
If I may, I just realized I had not offered my email address and my phone number. They were not on the slide. My apologies for that. If I may offer both of those to anybody that's still listening.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I can also send them out in an email afterwards as well, Robert.
Okay, that'll work even better. My southern accent won't get in the way of the email, so you get every letter right.
Great, no worries. All right, so I will send Robert's information out to everybody after the webinar. I want to say thank you to Robert and our partners in Israel and everyone who's joined us for today's webinar. This will conclude today's presentation, and we hope everyone has a wonderful afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you.